waking up in the ICU and being told that this is the state of your vision and it's probably going to stay that way must have been so incredibly shocking and such a traumatic experience. Today, we are going to be reacting to Ashley King's story. Ashley was a backpacker in Bali who drank poisoned alcohol and lost her vision as a result. I met Ashley following her accident, and her story has stuck with me ever since, so I'm excited to share it with all of you today, and hopefully we can take away some lessons from it. And the video we are specifically reacting to today was posted on Inside Edition about a month ago. Headphones are going on. Fake laptop, real laptop, prop laptop being open to a blank screen, and we're ready to go. Play.
All alone in a country where I knew nobody, being told that I'm blind, it was, I thought this was all just a joke. How was I just backpacking, living my best life?
Ashley King from Canada warned travelers after a methanol tainted cocktail in Bali left her blind.
If someone would have told me that go on this trip abroad and something bad was going to happen to me, I would have thought that I would have been attacked by a shark. I did not think I was going to drink something that was going to make me lose my eyesight.
She and a friend were traveling before starting college. She was 18 years old.
We went to Bali in August of 2011, but I wasn't prepared for how different and overwhelming it was when I got to Bali. And I'll never understand why, but this is the only time in my life it's ever happened, but I just had an overwhelming, ominous feeling the entire time that I was in Bali. My intuition and my gut were just telling me, you need to get out of Bali. Everything that could have gone wrong for me, credit cards pickpocketed, lots of bed bugs and rashes and sickness from the food, and so I wasn't really having a good time.
She stuck it out and stayed on the trip. On the last night, she and friends went out.
Bali is such a popular destination and is honestly pretty high on my list of places that I want to visit. And I truly the way she's talking about how all of these things were going wrong and her gut was just telling her get out of here, it's not good. I feel that feeling so hard. I have learned over the years, every time I ignore my gut, I get screwed over. It is so important to listen to your gut instinct, listen to your intuition when it is screaming at you. Sometimes when everything's going wrong, it is the universe being this is not for you. The issue that I know she's going to talk about is not just something that happens in Bali. There's been an increased reporting of situations like this in Laos, in Thailand. So this isn't a Bali specific issue. This happens in many places, but yes, trust your gut. And don't take Bali off your bucket list. It's still on my travel destination, even after knowing her story. I just know to be more cautious and aware. And being aware means you can make better choices, which is why she's sharing her story.
Out for drinks.
So we figured, why not? I had ordered a drink that had been served to me in a plastic water bottle. The way that it was advertised, that it was perfect for spill-free dancing, so you wouldn't spill your drink. But it was still just a mixed cocktail. I wasn't alarming the way that it was being served.
Frankly, a cocktail in a water bottle slays. That sounds great. I actually would love my cocktails to come in a water bottle. I see the way it's being sold, the idea of oh, so you can dance and not spill. That's actually a brilliant idea. Now we know it's sus, given what happened, but it is a brilliant idea just in general. I like the concept. And as a blind girly who hates, love a Cosmopolitan or a martini, but I hate the stinking skinny stem with that triangle top, so dangerous for me, I would absolutely drink a Cosmo out of a water bottle. Just saying. Play.
To me, nothing felt different. I didn't feel any kind of differentness in my feelings of drunkenness or the way my body was feeling.
The next day, she flew to New Zealand.
Maybe 6 p.m. that day. I remember feeling just really tired and having no appetite. I'm just going to go to bed and tomorrow will be a new day. I remember looking over and I had left my light that was next to my bed on. When I woke up the next morning, the light was off and I thought that was a little funny. Why would someone turn my light off? And I went to the bathroom and I noticed the lighting in the bathroom was also really dim. And I just thought maybe it's just a not so good of a hostel, so the lighting's not so great. I all of a sudden started gasping for air. I couldn't breathe. I was hyperventilating.
Ashley went to the receptionist for help.
And so they realized, like, we need to take you to like a walk-in clinic or a hospital. The receptionist went to go get my wallet and my passport. And at the time, my wallet was this really colorful pouch with all these little colored stripes on it. And when I looked down at the pouch, I couldn't see the color in the pouch anymore. That was when I knew something was wrong with my eyes. By the time I got...
That is so scary. First off, am I the only person who, whenever anybody says they can't breathe, I suddenly am like it's such a weird psychological thing, but that is very scary. And I know that exact feeling of colors fading because that happens, well, that happened to me growing up. Like I would look at a color one day and I knew what color it was. And then the next day I would look at it and it would just look faded. And even earlier this year, I woke up one morning and all of the lights looked like a green tint. Like instead of the lights looking the color they look in my house to me every single day, I woke up and they were just all like a green tint. And it stayed like that for like over a week. Actually, it might still be like that. Maybe I'm just used to it now. But I totally know that exact feeling where things don't look as bright as you know they should look. Or like the lights look faded and dimmed and the colors look more muted or blend together and get like mushy. It's such a, like, if you know, you know. If you deal with vision loss, progressive vision loss, you know that exact feeling. And it was concerning to me every time I experienced it, and I knew I had progressive vision loss. So to be 18 years old in a foreign country in a hostel with nobody you know around you, and to be experiencing that and have no idea why, I can only imagine how terrifying that would feel.
To emergency at the hospital, I couldn't see anything. I was in the dark blind and I still couldn't breathe. You know, the doctors didn't know what was wrong with me. They thought maybe I had consumed drugs the night before, I had been partying, and I assured them that I hadn't done anything like that. But eventually the doctors came back and asked me if I knew why there was a large amount of methanol in my system. And I didn't know what methanol was.
Methanol is often deliberately and illegally added to alcoholic beverages as a cheaper alternative to ethanol, normal alcohol, in countries where taxes on legitimate alcohol or the cost of legitimate alcohol might be perceived as too high, according to the Methanol Institute.
Once doctors realized that...
So, as I said, I actually recently watched this piece on 60 Minutes Australia on YouTube. I'll link it in the description box below, and I'll also, as always, link this video that I'm reacting to below as well. But there's been a big uptick in this recently. Multiple people have passed away, multiple tourists. I think there was like 6 young female tourists who all passed away from drinking bootlegged alcohol while backpacking. It is a really serious issue, and ever since I met Ashley and heard her story, anytime I hear of young backpackers going to countries that are known for having this issue, but especially when they're going to Bali, I share Ashley's story with them, not to scare them, but again, to warn them so that they're aware that this is something that happens, this is something that exists. Because I think especially when we're young, we think we're invincible. And at least if you're aware, you can be looking out for warning signs, because the faster you get treatment, the better your outcome is going to be. But if you don't know what you're looking for, that's when serious complications can happen, that's when permanent disability can happen, and that's when death can occur. So it's so important to just be cautious, be aware of your surroundings when you're going to foreign countries. I've traveled all over the world. I've been really fortunate, but I've also gotten really, really sick. If you've read my book, Unseen, How I Lost My Vision But Found My Voice, that recently came out, you'll know that I got extremely sick staying in rural India for a month. Nothing like this, obviously, but a part of traveling is getting sick. That can happen, and you just never want to be in a situation like this. So doing everything that you can to prevent it and act fast if something does happen is really important. But literally, like, her story has stuck with me so much for a decade now, and I share it with everybody who travels because it's such an important lesson. And she is not the only person I have met who has gone blind from methanol poisoning. I actually, when I was at guide dog training getting Gallup, one of my classmates is fully blind. Well, he is currently fully blind, was fully blind when I was in guide dog training with him. And he also did go fully blind from consuming methanol. In his case, it was a failed suicide attempt. He had drank antifreeze, which has high doses of methanol. I mean, fortunately, he is still alive. He didn't succeed with his attempt, but it did leave him permanently, completely blind. So yeah, methanol poisoning is known to attack your eyes, and it is really scary stuff.
It was methanol that was in my system. Antidote for methanol is actually pure alcohol. So methanol is only bad for you once your body starts to metabolize it. And when it metabolize it, the methanol turns your blood into an acid, and basically that blood embalms you from the inside out. It turns your blood completely acidic that then goes through all of your organs and damages the inside of your body that way. But your body will stop metabolizing that methanol if ethanol is present, so what we typically drink. So what the doctors had to do was give me pure alcohol and get me drunk so that my body would stop metabolizing the methanol. But they had alcohol and orange juice, and they told me that I had to drink it incredibly quickly, that they couldn't give it to me through an IV, but that I had to consume it.
That's so wild.
I would finish a drink and then they'd pour me another one. And then I'd finish a drink and they'd pour me another one. And they were encouraging me to drink it faster. It was like the most absurd drinking game I'd ever played.
But
the drunker
fake.
I got, the more I could breathe and the more I could see. I went from being in the dark blind to being able to take in light again, to be able to see my doctors. My breathing went back to normal. But meanwhile, they had called my family back in Canada and told them to get on the first flight to New Zealand because it was methanol poisoning and there was a very good chance that I wasn't going to make it.
After hemodialysis, she woke up in ICU.
My breathing was back to normal, but my vision was very poor. I couldn't see color. I could only just see shapes. I could take in light, but that was about it. During the doctor's rounds, started telling me, how lucky I was to be alive, how close I was to death, how many people die from this, that I could have had organ failure or kidney failure or brain damage, but I didn't have any of those things. And that's when I was like, but what about my eyes? And they had told me that the way my eyesight was very likely the way that it was going to stay, and that they probably wouldn't be able to bring it back. And the doctors tried to do some things, but with methanol poisoning, most people die from it. So there isn't a lot of research.
Being, again, like 18 years old, so far away from home. I mean, New Zealand to Canada, like that is a very long haul. And to wake up in the ICU on your own and to find out that you were just this carefree young girl backpacking between graduating high school and going off to college, living your best life, and then waking up in the ICU and being told that this is the state of your vision and it's probably going to stay that way must have been so incredibly shocking and such a traumatic experience. I can't even imagine. And it's stories like Ashley and stories like my friend Ross Miner, who you guys have seen on the channel a couple times, that are the reason I tell people, like, don't just go around asking people like, oh, how did you lose your vision? Or any disabled people, like, how did you become disabled? Because it can be such a personal and deeply traumatic experience that you don't want to have to relive when every barista and Uber driver is just curious. It's not your information. For somebody like me, well, yes, going blind at a young age was traumatic in many ways. I've lived with this disease and diagnosis my whole life. It's not hard for me to tell you about it. But stories like this, I can't even imagine like the PTSD that would come with it. And having to retell that story over and over again. It's one thing when you sign up to do an interview like this, but it's another thing when you're just like going to get your groceries and being asked. So please keep that in mind when you meet somebody. I know you might have morbid curiosities of what happened, but it's just simply not your business. Move along.
There isn't a lot of research and things around how to bring eyesight back to methanol poison victims, and not a lot of things that you can do to restore eyesight. They said that it was likely because my optic nerves were dying. And so basically what happens is when the very acidic, toxic blood makes its way through your body, it makes its way up to your brain and into your optic nerves. So my eyes are fine, it's just the connection that's broken. I think a lot of people want to hear that I did something reckless and that I did something really dangerous, and that's why this happened to me. But the truth is, I did what every other traveler does when they go on vacation. And you think if you're going to an establishment like a restaurant or a bar or a hotel, that you're going to be safe with what you're drinking. So why would I ever second guess that?
Ashley thinks the only reason she survived was because she was hospitalized in New Zealand.
Had I been hospitalized...
I think that's such a great point that Ashley made, is she is not to blame for this. She did nothing wrong. She was not being a reckless young 18-year-old traveler. As she said, she was doing what most of us do. I go out to restaurants and order a cocktail very often, especially when I'm on vacation. That's like a common thing that I would do. And in fact, it's likely the fact that she only had one and therefore did not have enough alcohol in her system to counteract the methanol that could have been problematic. And so she was not doing anything wrong to have one drink out with her friends on vacation, thinking she should have been safe and trusting. And that's why it's so important to just be aware that this happens so that you can try to be as safe as you can. And frankly, for me, I feel like if I ever went to somewhere like Bali, knowing stories like this, I probably would just choose that that's not a drinking vacation. I just don't drink on that trip. And it's so scary that she couldn't just trust the establishment that she was in. But not every country has the standards that we in North America are used to. They don't all have the same rules, laws, legislation. That's why I don't bring my guide dog when I go to certain countries, because I simply don't have the same protections. So it's really important when you're traveling to just educate yourself before you go to a destination on things that you should take into account when visiting and enjoying yourself.
If I was in Bali, I 100% would have died. Because a lot of people who are being poisoned by methanol end up, hospitalized in Bali, and they're not doing the appropriate measures to treat the poisoning, and so they end up dying.
After the incident, Ashley began processing what happened.
I was incredibly depressed, incredibly angry, very much in denial. I lied to everybody, telling them that my eyesight was going to come back, or that I just wasn't wearing my contacts, or that I just didn't have my glasses on, or I just didn't like driving anymore, because I was so I think I had a lot of internalized ableism that I wasn't aware of yet. And I was just so scared of how people were going to judge me with a disability. I was looking at all my friends who were going to university and working jobs and driving and going on dates and doing all these things that I told myself I probably would never be able to do. Felt like a death sentence. I would have rather have been dead than to have been blind. I had to learn how to pick out an outfit, how to cook for myself. So a lot of this was me figuring it out for myself. And because I was so in denial of what I was going through, I wouldn't ask for help.
Things eventually began turning around.
I realized that the only person that was going to change my circumstance was myself, and the only person that was going to change my outlook was myself. Deciding to go back to university, that was a huge accomplishment. Try dating again. Or the first time I decided to go on another backpacking trip with some friends. Everything was just another first. And the more that I kind of checked off my bucket list of things that I wanted to do, the more I started realizing there isn't anything that I can't do. I just have to do it in a different way than everybody else.
Ashley lost almost 100% of her vision.
My doctors have estimated that I have about 1% to 2% of my eyesight left, but my brain is compensated and I've learned how to live with it. So to me, I feel like I maybe have 10% left, maybe 15%. But basically what I see is static on a TV screen, or looking through a blizzard. Everything is really staticky, and the static is always moving. And it's in this sepia tone because I don't see color. So usually what I see is shapes and contrast. So I can tell when I look at myself in a mirror that I have dark hair against lighter skin, but I can't see any of the details of my skin or, my eyelashes or anything like that. For the most part, if you looked at me, you would never know that I'm blind, unless maybe you knew somebody with a visual impairment, because I grew up sighted. I know a lot of the social cues that we do when we communicate with somebody. So I know to try and make eye contact with somebody. So I, follow the sound of their voice. I, nod my head when I'm speaking to somebody. For the most part, I come across really sighted until I walk into something, and then people think that I'm just really dumb or really clumsy, and I'm I actually can't see.
Ashley has gained back her independence.
So I've studied abroad, I've traveled to India, to South America, I've lived in England, I've done a bunch of things that I think the average person would think that a blind person can't do. But at this point, there's very few things that I say that I can't do. I just have to do it in a different way than everybody else.
She continues to travel regularly.
Traveling looks a little bit different for me today. I book trips with people that I trust and that I know can help me with my access needs. I say to the airline that I have a visual impairment and that I'm disabled. I'll get the Uber to drop me off wherever I need to go. I might ask the Uber for some assistance, and I might FaceTime a friend and be like, what am I looking for right now? Thank God for technology. When I travel or even in my day-to-day life, I can basically do everything with my phone.
She's made a successful career in acting.
I decided to write a play, and they often say,
I know this sounds silly, but I feel like so weirdly proud of Ashley watching this, because when I met her, I want to say she had just lost her vision like within that year. Like she was so new to being blind, and I cannot tell you how much I've thought about her for this last decade of my life. Like her story stayed with me so much, and we were so close in age when I met her. I was 20, 21 years old. I had just started my speaking business. I was working with the CNIB, Canadian National Institute for the Blind, and had flown to Edmonton to do a speaking engagement. And I met her there. I think it was Edmonton. It could have been Calgary, but I'm almost 100% it was Edmonton. It was Edmonton for sure. Okay, anyways, besides the point. And she came up to me, and I met so many people that day, but her story, it never left me. I thought about her so much, and she was still just trying to navigate what life looked like now, post vision loss, and still in the grieving, and to see how much she rebuilt her life. And I think that sentiment of like, I would have rather be dead than be blind is something so many of us who have gone blind have felt at some point. I felt it. You guys know I'm very open that I dealt with suicidal ideation after my vision loss. Many of us have felt that feeling of like dying would be better than this existence as a blind person. And I mean, I get the comment all the time that if I went blind, I'd off myself. Like, it's awful, but it's a feeling that many of us have had, and they've done like studies and questionnaires and stuff and asked people like what are kind of like the top 10 most feared things, and number one is going blind. Like, it beats dying of cancer. That's how much people fear blindness, and I think it's because what we've been taught about blindness historically has been so negative and has shown a life of being limited, and we don't have that exposure to, or we didn't have that exposure to what a positive life with blindness could be, which is why media representation is so important. And thank God mainstream media wasn't going to do it for us. So thank God on social media, we as a community have like made our voices known. We've made ourselves known. But 10 years ago, or however long ago when this happened to Ashley, it wasn't where it is today. She couldn't have just turned online and gotten blind girl makeup tutorials and how to put outfits together without being able to see, and advice about traveling with a disability. And I'm so glad that the Ashleys of today, the Mollys of today who go blind can immediately turn to social media and not just have one channel, but have so many different creators with different life experiences sharing their world on Blind Talk and on r/blind and like all over the place, like support groups and forums and videos for anybody to find what they're looking for is just so incredibly important. But I genuinely feel like so stinking proud watching this and just hearing how far Ashley has come since I met her. You have been living rent-free in my brain, Ashley, and this is like making me very happy. Okay, play.
If you don't know what to write about, write what you know. So I thought I'd write a play about how I lost my eyesight. And in September of 2024, we premiered Static, a Party Girl's memoir in Calgary, Alberta, to sold-out audiences.
Her play has won several awards and accolades and led to a successful podcast.
I want to see it.
Alexa, play the latest episode of Static, a Party Girl's memoir.
I've never thought, going blind and methanol poisoning could be positive in some way, but like, it's been a good year, and it's kind of turned into like my calling card and, what people know me for.
She's created a change.org campaign to bring awareness to methanol poisoning.
You may think you're drinking a vodka soda, but what you may not know is that it's a methanol tainted cocktail. Because of this, I'm sharing my story. I've also created a change.org campaign to spread awareness about methanol poisoning around the world.
Petitioning for education surrounding methanol poisoning. I would like to see methanol poisoning be taught in schools so that youth one day who decide to travel can be aware of the dangers of methanol poisoning. I would also like to see it be advertised in airports and on airlines so that travelers who are one day going to these countries where methanol poisoning takes place can be aware of the dangers and how to look out for it. So many people in the world do not know that methanol poisoning exists, and they should.
Ashley's incident was 15 years ago, but incidents involving methanol poisoning are still happening today. So she wants to keep people educated.
I could have died, and for whatever reason I didn't, and for some reason I'm still here, and so many people die from this, but for some reason I didn't. So there has to be a purpose for why I'm still here, and maybe this is my purpose. I'm like every other traveler. I went out for a couple of drinks. I said yes to a drink that looked to be not suspicious at all, and something bad happened to me that could have been prevented. The reality is, people are going to drink. They just need to be educated on what's safe to drink. And typically, it's beer, it's canned cocktails, it's duty-free. A lot of the times bottles are refilled and you just don't know because methanol smells no different and it tastes no different. If the price is too good to be true, there's probably a reason for it. There is no reason why a bar or restaurant or hotel should offer free drinks from 8 to 10, or a 2-for-1, or a
and
really
these are
cheap
very
drink.
common
So
in
watch
those
out
countries.
for cheaply priced drinks. And if we can't stop methanol poisoning from happening in developing countries, we can at least be aware about it.
For more on Ashley's campaign, visit change.org. For Inside Edition Digital.
Okay, I am going to be linking the change.org campaign if it's still live. I think this video came out a little while ago, so if the change.org campaign is still live, I will have the link to that in the description box down below, as well as anything else I can find on Ashley. I actually listened to a podcast episode on This Is Actually Happening about Ashley's story, so I'll have that linked down below. Static, a party girl's memoir, a phenomenal name. Wish I could have seen the play. I will definitely be checking out the podcast. I hope it becomes a real memoir. Having just written my own, I know how much work it is, but I feel like her story truly does have the power to impact so many people, especially other young travelers. The things that she was talking about, like free drinks at your hostel from 6 to 10, like I hear those stories on these like different exposés on methanol poisoning every single time. It is very common for them to do that. And so that's just like one easy way to try to avoid it, is don't partake in things like that. As she said, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. But I'm so glad she's taken this really, really painful thing that happened to her and turned it into purpose. I mean, I resonate entirely with that. That is exactly, honestly, the kind of coping mechanism that got me through my vision loss, was saying, okay, if this had to happen to me, how do I make something positive out of it? And I definitely also really resonate with what she said about, if I don't change anything, nothing's going to change. Oftentimes, we just sit feeling like a victim to our circumstance, and you can choose to keep living like that, but I think that's no way to live. And I think that because I did it. I did it for long enough to know that it wasn't very fun. And you have the power to move through it, to move forward and embrace your new life, and know it's never gonna look the way your life looked before becoming disabled, before losing your vision, but it is still very much possible to live a completely full and happy and fulfilling, successful existence with a disability. But it is a choice, it's a mindset. And yeah, I'm just so glad that Ashley is sharing her story. I'm gonna have so much stuff linked in the description box below for you to check out. And until next time, you can click over here to watch a video of me reacting to people who went blind due to elective cosmetic procedures, or you can click over here to hear me talk about Sabrina Carpenter's ableist lyrics and whether or not Taylor Swift used a Braille Easter egg and or is autistic, ? Check those out, and I'll see you next time. Bye.